If you ever looked at optics and thought, golly, I'd like to have some good set of glass, but don't really want to pay that premium price, Hawke Optics may be where you need to look at. You make some great optics at an affordable price. If you use the code BTE, you save 15%. I've been using Razor Broadheads now for a few years, and I've been super impressed with them. I shot deer with my compound with them. I shot deer with my trad bow with them. They're tough as nails, and they fly great and leave a great wound channel. Use code BTE for 20% off. Latitude Outdoors just came out with a new profile platform, version 2, Gen 2. It's the same thing you love from the profile platform, but better. Go check it out at latitudeoutdoors.com. Use code BTE to save 15% off. And finally, go check out ASIO gear if you need some new camo. They have something for everybody from early season to late season to accessories, gloves, hand warmers, face mask, everything you need. Go over to ASIOgear.com. Use code ECHO15 for 15% off. All my partners are in the description below. Go check them out. All right, let's get into the episode. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the show. 2 nights in a row for me, Beau.
Hey, there you go, man. That's good. It's about time you did some working.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Oh, that's funny. How's things been going?
Good, man. Good. Just staying busy and getting through turkey season here, and just getting packed up to go on a hunt here up in Canada. So I'm pretty excited about that. But staying busy. Otherwise, getting a little bit too much rain here in Pennsylvania. I don't mean to sound like an old person with complaining about the weather, but it's been pretty nasty.
Yeah. We've gotten in Indiana, it's been pretty timely. Before like all the crops went in, we got a lot of rain, too much. Kind of screwed my turkey season out, but it's been good here for the most part.
That's good.
You've been on bear hunts before, haven't you?
Not this. Like, I've been on 2 kinds of bear hunt. I've done spot and stock in Montana in 2022. I went out there. I hunted out there and shot a bear. And then I bear hunted with dogs in West Virginia with Josh and the Untamed guys. But I've never hunted like the baited stand stuff in Canada, and that's what I'm doing on this hunt. So it should be pretty interesting. I'm excited about it. It's like fishing in the morning, bear hunting in the evening. Seems pretty laid back. I'm actually really looking forward to it.
Are you doing like a charter thing where you're on a boat?
No, it's staying in a camp or a cabin, and then I'm going with Bill from Spartan Forge, and Johnny is going as well. And so it's like fishing in the morning. We'll get up and then go out in the afternoon and go and sit for 6 hours till dark.
Yeah, that'll be a good time.
Yeah,
sure as the sun will rise, you guys will have a good time.
Oh yeah, it should be fun. It's funny, I don't have much knowledge on that type of hunting for bears, and Bill was telling me, he's like, yeah, it's kind of open because like, is there tree stands or like to bring my own stuff? Like, I don't know. And he's like, well, you can do whatever you want. I'm like, okay. So I was like, man, it'd be really cool to hunt them off the ground. To me, that would be like such a thrill of doing on the ground. We'll see how I feel if there's like, in a best case scenario, you got 5 or 6 bears that are coming to this bait site and it's starting to get dark, and I'm on the ground with a bow in my hand. See how I feel about it. But yeah,
I don't know that I have like a desire to bear hunt. I have the only thing that's off-putting to me. I would love to go do something like you're doing where you're fishing and whatnot, but like, I don't know, going up to Wisconsin, Dan's always wanted me to go up there and hunt with them, which I will one year, or Minnesota where they go. But like, I live too far away to really put in a lot of effort into it, like baiting and all that stuff. And it would just, it would definitely just be a guided hunt for me because I don't.
Yeah.
I can't drive up to Minnesota and put out bait with guys. I mean, it's just not. I mean, I could go up there one weekend and help, but like you got to do it almost a couple times a
Yeah.
week, you know.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, it's funny. I was never really interested in bear hunting that much until when I did it in Montana and I got to witness, and I knew nothing about it. I still really don't, but to go there and try to see, what they're feeding on and learn, it was just like
yeah,
hunting deer or elk. To and honestly, bear meat is awesome. I love bear meat. You might hear differently from other people, and I would just think that they probably didn't prepare. I mean, I'm not like, I don't wake up in the morning and be like, oh, I want some bear steaks today. But like bear burger and
yeah,
roast and other things like that are so good. To me, ground bear meat is better than venison, and it has like fat in it, so it sticks together better for burgers and stuff like that, tacos. Big fan of that. But bears are cool. They're cool animals to be able to hunt, and yeah, and just watch them live their lives is pretty neat.
yeah. They're interesting critters. I mean, for sure. I've had bear tags in my pocket. I've never been like out bear hunting specifically, but a couple times in Colorado, you can buy an over the counter bear tag in some of the units for $100.
Mhm.
So we would just buy one to have one on hand. Um, but never have really gotten the one year I didn't buy one, we could have shot a couple, but uh, just how that goes. Um, is uh, in Montana, was that a draw for bear?
No, that was over the counter spring hunt. So it was actually like this. I think I shot my bear that year, 3 years ago, on like the 18th of May. So it was just, it would have been a few days ago that I went out there, and we actually turkey hunted too. Didn't realize there was turkeys there until we got there. My brother was a resident at the time. He had a tag, and we went in and killed a Miriam's too. So it was cool to get a turkey and a bear on the trip, which made it really fun to
Yeah,
be able to do. But no, it's a over the counter tag. The spring seasons are fun because I've done the same thing in like Colorado where I was elk hunting and I picked up a bear tag, but you're focused on elk, or like if there's
yeah,
something with antlers, I'm probably going to chase that more so. But when that's what's in your pocket, you actually put the right effort into it, and it can be really fun.
yeah. Um, I would agree with you. I just didn't even pay attention to the bears. Like it was kind of a waste of $100, but um,
But the thing is, like exactly what happened to you, why I started buying them there was one year I saw like it was double digit bears in the
yeah,
high country. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm getting a tag next year. Couldn't wait. Bought that tag. And I spent like 10 days there and never saw a bear the next
yeah,
year. So that's kind of how it works.
yeah. It seems like, I mean, again, I'm like you. I know nothing about birds. I know less than you do about them. But like, um, the year that we were seeing a lot, we were also seeing a lot of elk and mule deer. Like it was just they had a lot of rain. There's a lot of elk up high, and the years we had tags, it was a little bit dry,
Yeah,
kind of a drought year. Things were down lower, trying to eat or whatever they do, and the bears weren't out either. So I don't know.
that was same scenario. Because when they're in that dark timber, you're not going to see them unless you walk up on one just so happenly. But like when the feed's up high, the grass is green. There's berries up there. Like you
Yeah,
got elk, you got
they
mule
were
deer, you
everywhere.
got bears. Everything's up there.
Yeah, it's awesome. It's very you see so much more when they're up high.
Yeah.
Um, and I've been out west where it's been a beautiful spring where they had plenty of rain, and or summer had plenty of rain, I guess. And I've been there when it was drought conditions where we couldn't go places because of fires and whatever else. And it's kind of like where the animals at too. So
Yeah.
uh, I've had very drastically different experiences in the same areas. Um, I've always went to Colorado, um,
Yeah.
but
Well, I've learned that when I'd go to Colorado, there was an area the first 3 years I hunted out there, I hunted the same area. And it was like next year I'd be like, oh, I know where the elk are at
yeah,
now. We're good. We're gonna get this figured out. And then not paying attention to things like the drought conditions, get there and the high country's all burned off, not from fire, but just from no water. It's just like
yeah,
dead. And the elk were down lower, even to the point where even though it was miles away from where they were before. They were down in the ranches are like around that border. And that's where I learned the value in having multiple spots at different elevations as well. And kind of looking at that depending on like when I build my hunt plan of having spots in different types of areas versus, oh, I have 5 spots that all look the same in the high country but you have a drought year, then you might as well just, go for a hike.
Yeah. I got addicted to elk hunting. The very first time I went, I got in really good shape and I was prepared for it for one, which is a huge help,
Yeah.
But a buddy went with me and he didn't even have a tag. He just wanted to go and camp in the backcountry, And of course we listened to way too many like Gritty Bowman podcasts. This was way back in the day when Brian and Aaron were doing that show together.
Mm-hmm.
And we went in real deep, got on top. I actually got a hold of Aaron and talked to him a little bit about the spot and blah, 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 blah. But this was 10 years ago. I mean, it's a long time ago now. And we just got up top. We didn't know what we were doing. And we were up on top overlooking the 2 like kind of fields, or not fields, but open areas.
Meadows.
Meadows. Yeah, there you go. And my buddy, who's not even really a hunter, he's sitting on one side, I'm sitting on the other. And we sat there for like 4 or 5 minutes and we're glassing. And he like comes running over to me. He's like, I think I hear one. And I'm like, I doubt it. There's no way. And I mean, we've been here for 45 minutes, Beau. Like we set up, we dropped some stuff off where we were going to camp and went up top. And he's like, come over here. And I went over there. And sure enough, dude, there was an elk bugling just down into the woods on the other side of the meadow. And so I'm like, well, let's go down there, We went down there and there was a herd of elk inside the woods there. A big 6x6 with a bunch of cows. And there was like a little satellite bull on the outside of the herd. And they came out to the meadow, and I got a shot at I didn't get a shot at the big bull, but I got a shot at the little satellite bull, and I ended up hitting him in the shoulder. We didn't find him.
Oh.
Yeah. But dude, I hunted elk for like 1 hour and killed and shot one. And I was like, dude, this is awesome. And then of course I was cocky then. And like, cause at first I was like, I'm going to shoot the first legal elk I see, But then we were seeing so many elk, and it was such a beautiful area. We had it to ourselves, and I kept passing cows, and just thinking like that. And I ended up not getting it. But then the next year we went up at the same spot, and it was a different story. I mean, there was guys there, and then there was no vegetation at all, and we did not have a backup plan.
Yeah.
So, because we just stayed up there the whole time the first year because it was just animals everywhere. We were seeing
it's just good.
Yeah, we saw probably a dozen bear, big mule deer. It was awesome. Like it was by far the best hunt I've ever been on as far as like a Western hunt. And it's never been the same since. That's the best one for sure. But anyway, that's a good tip though, because I did it for a few years in a row there, 4 or 5 years, I guess. And then we kind of quit doing it once the kids were born. And I just, I never really figured it all the way out. I missed another elk on another trip. So I guess I could have been very successful as an elk hunter coming out from the east, but I wasn't at all. So whenever you go out west, it's just not like it's not unlike any other hunting. I guess you need to have some backup plans.
Yeah. And I learned, like I said, I learned it the hard way too. It was where I had to come out and drive out of town, like out of the mountains, go to get cell service. And I was hunting with my dad, and him and I got a hotel, and we're like getting back on the maps, looking for re-downloading maps in different parts of the area. Yeah. Basically wasted a day that we could have been hunting because of that, me not knowing where to go next and where to change. Like there is so much value. Same thing is like with deer hunting, of learning an area. Mm-hmm. And it's harder now because Colorado doesn't have the over-the-counter anymore either, which I think a lot of those units for a while will still be able to be drawn every year. You just have to apply for it. But one, there's no way of really knowing that. It's still up in the air and how that's going to work. But having backup plans is definitely a big deal. And then once it was after 3 years of being there and had close to opportunities, I had my bow back, never released an arrow, but just I ended up changing states and I went to Idaho. And then on the first day, killed a bull, and it was like just things lined. And I was actually planning on being there for 2 weeks. And I did stay there the whole time because my cousin and my buddy had a tag, so I helped out with them. But I just got super lucky where, day one there. But the culmination of 3 years prior to that, it was like kind of the opposite of your situation where it was like real slow for me. I have little pockets of activity, but there were times where I didn't see elk for 7 days, and eventually, started getting into them.
Yeah. Well, like I said, we had a good year the first year, and it was just lucky. Like I just did a bunch of studying on maps, like spent all my time studying maps, and just was going off of what I've listened to on podcast and trying to figure out what would look good. And then found this particular area, and it was hard to get to. It took us a full day to get back to it. I mean, it was miles back in there. It was too far. I mean, it was stupid. I mean, if we would have got one, I don't know what we would have done exactly. We would have worked on getting them out, but it would have been rough. I mean, it was just us two.
Yeah.
And
you learn that the mountains are way bigger than the maps look when you get out there. Like it's so many places I'd go, I'd be like, oh, here's my glassing knob. I get there, it's like sheer cliff and this like butte that's up on top. I'm like, there's no way I'm getting up on top of that. And just like, and the same thing, I read Cam Haynes' book, Backcountry Bow Hunting, and I was like, I need to go to the steepest, deepest unit in Colorado as possible. And then I was like, did that, and I was like, I'm glad I did, but it wasn't the right move for a first time going out there.
No. We actually, so on the way out, we got to the trailhead where we parked, and there was this old like cowboy just sitting in a lawn chair at the trailhead, and he just like talks to people. He's retired, he doesn't work anymore, just sits there and talks to hunters. And he's like, "Oh, I see you guys are from Indiana," and we're like, "Yeah." And we were rough. It was rough. Like we were rough at this time. We'd been out there for 7 days, and he's like, "Where'd you guys hunt at?" And we kind of explained to him. He's like, "You guys walk back there?" And we're like, "Yeah." I said it took us to get in there. We like hiked halfway, slept, and then hiked the rest of the way the next morning. But we just walked out. It was a lot easier walking out than walking in there. And he's like, "Oh my gosh, next time you come, just give me a call and I will." He had horses and stuff. He's like, "I'll just take you back there because you don't have to walk back there." So we did have like a contact. I never asked him to take us back there, but if I would have got one, I would have called him.
Yeah.
Bring his horses back. But, yeah, you have to be careful because if we would have killed one that first year, it'd been a great story, but I don't know how much meat we would have, been able to save because we were also inexperienced on, that kind of managing that kind of thing, I mean, I had listened to podcasts on how to do it, but like, that's it,
Oh yeah. You watch the Corey Jacobson videos, the gutless method, and you're like, I got this.
Oh
we're going to pack this out until you get like putting a hind quarter of an elk on your back is an absolute miserable experience. And for going as deep as, like you said, you were, that's a tough feat. I'm sure you would have figured it out, but it's, you'd have been cursing yourself at the time when it happened. To me now, from what I've learned of hunting out there, it would take me a lot to backpack into an area without ever being there, not having any prior experience, just because I've learned that you can be so much more efficient hunting from the vehicle, having a light pack, and you could still cover 10 miles in a day of doing a loop, not 10 miles one direction, but like cover areas, and then also be able to, didn't find elk, wasn't a hot sign, move. And you can cover more ground quickly versus, spending a day to pack into an area, take 2 or 3 days to realize there's not any elk there because you don't want to go back out the next day just because you didn't see anything or hear anything. And you can waste more time that way. I don't think there's a right or wrong way. That's just, for me personally, that's how I've looked at it in recent years of doing it. So
Interesting. Yeah, that's good to know. Like again, we were just listening to too much Aaron Snyder and Brian Cole at the time. So that's just what we had in our mind. We had to do, and like you said, Cam Haynes and all, it's just out east. That's the only people you kind of hear about because that's the epicness of it.
And it is cool. And like, I do want to put, like, depending on what your experience that you're looking for, backpacking into a remote high country area and camping and doing that is cool. It is a cool experience. It is way more romanticized than what it really is. It's miserable most of the time, but it is beautiful. It's cool to do it, but it's I think it's a little bit over romanticized.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, if you're just gonna go in there and like camp and go fishing in some of those lakes that they have back in their ponds or whatever you want to call them back in there, that would be pretty cool. But like whenever you're packing stuff around, and it's rough. I mean, yeah, and I was 23 the first time we went to. You know what I mean? Like 24, however old it was. It's like things are different 10 years, 11 years later, So there's that.
Yeah, I was the same age in my first trip there. I think I was 23 and going back there, and it's just so funny. Like, even looking back when I didn't have a spare tire for my truck, and I drove all the way across the country, drove up these terrible mountain roads, and just like, I thought at the time I was good at planning and I had things figured out, but I did not have anything figured out.
Oh, dude. The guy we drove his truck. The guy that I went to, you talk about spare tire. The guy I went to Colorado the first year with, and we were like just out of Indiana into Illinois, and we're stopping get gas, and I walk around the back of his truck and I look down at his license plates, and his tags are expired, and I'm like, dude, do you know your tags are expired? He's like, oh man. I said, dude, we're going to be on the road for so many hours. I said, there's no way we're not getting pulled over eventually, and we never did, but like, it's just so unprepared. Like there's probably no way he had a spare tire either on that truck, but whatever, it worked out, and it wasn't my problem if he got.
And hey, I mean, that's the fun of it, talking about it later. And there's something to say about just making something happen and doing it. Like, now I definitely want to prepare as much as possible. And I still would recommend that to anybody. But if it comes in the way of making it happen, just go do it and learn
for sure
along the way.
Oh, that's the thing, is like that trip too, like, didn't cost me much, much either. We didn't spend a lot of money doing it. And I think that's a little bit of the hang up, which it can be extremely expensive to go out there. I mean, you can, if you're starting with no gear and I mean, all that. But you don't have to either. And I guess if you're like, for example, like you were talking about kind of being a little more mobile, hunting next to the roads. And one year we went with my dad and my cousins, and we got to one spot, and they'd actually, the next day we got there, and the next day they closed the area for fires. We couldn't go in there. Like, we couldn't hunt there anymore. And so we were like, crap, and I had another pin from a location that was a couple hours away from where we were at. And that was a really good area that, there was a lot of like dirt roads in there, it's mountain roads, like you said. And we were able to get on elk just moving around. But,
like when I went to Idaho and I killed the elk that's in the cover photo you used there, that was my first bull. And that hunt was a scenario where I was like, all right, I'm going to find a place that, and I got the advice from somebody, I don't remember who it was, but finding a place that didn't allow you to backpack in too deep, but had just enough space that the road hunters weren't going to go in there. So like this area really capped out at a couple miles, maybe 3 miles in, before it hit like just such rugged mountains that it was just like sheep country. So like people weren't going over, there's no way over those passes and stuff. So it was a small kind of block of land. And that's kind of how I looked at it. I was like, all right, the guys that want to go in deep, there's this whole other section over here that I would imagine they're going to. And this spot, and that was the scenario. There was a guy I met that I'm still buddies with that we camped with for 2 weeks that was from Ohio. And he was one that had been hunting there for a while, and that's what he was doing, what we were trying to do. But everyone else was just riding the roads, a glass hanging out their truck window, and there wasn't as much of hiking up in there. Although the funniness of social media and everything, at the time I was dumb and I had my website on the side of my truck cap, and I had someone send me a picture of like where my elk carcass was like a few days after I had left. And which was, I don't know if they had seen my truck and then looked up the website and sent it to me. I'm assuming that's how it happened. But it was pretty interesting.
It's crazy how small the world is.
Yeah. And I know that would happen now. I mean, social media has even gotten, more crazier, connected on those things. So
yeah. Let's talk about like what's going on out west right now, because I'm kind of assuming you keep up on it a little bit, just with tags and things that are changing, and like I was mentioning before, 10, I can't remember what year exactly it was, but it was 10 years ago, we'll say. When I first went, I didn't see another soul while I was out there. That changed drastically in the next like 6 years of us going out there back and forth,
Yep.
How is it now out there, out west?
Depends on where you go, but it's pretty crowded in a lot of areas. I mean, even last year, I hunted on a tag that was a draw tag that took me quite a few points to draw, but residents could get it, not over the counter, but they could get it every year. And I wasn't running non-residents, it was residents, but they were everywhere. It was a really difficult hunt from that time, and we ended up finding him in one of those overlooked spots, just like when you think of deer hunting, like just outside the parking lot. It was kind of a little bit bigger than outside the parking lot, but in the same respect of there was people going deep, there was people hunting from the roads, there were a few pockets you couldn't see from the roads. It was like a more of an open country glassing type area, and that's the way it was. But yeah, I mean, the pressure is definitely higher in a lot of areas, but in the last few years, I've ran into more residents than I have non-residents. So it was funny, and all the guys that I ran into that residents were complaining about the non-residents, and I didn't really see any non-residents other than like 2 the whole time I was there last year. Again, it was a draw tag, so that, to be fair on that one, but the whole getting the tag scenarios are more difficult. When we started, there were multiple states with over-the-counter tags. Idaho is still considered over-the-counter, but I wouldn't consider it over-the-counter because you have to get into the lottery system, basically, or in line on December 1st of the year prior to you drawing a tag, and get put in a line with a random number to see if you can pull a tag. So to me, it's kind of like a draw, and because they all sell out. And Colorado just went away from over the counter. There are still some opportunities in Utah, some opportunities in Oregon. Montana's I draw just to get a general tag. You can draw it every year. It's about a 50-50 chance. And then, but you're guaranteed after 2 points to get a tag as of right now. Wyoming, to get a general tag's 5 or 6 points. Just found out today I didn't get my Wyoming tag. So there's that. Most of Utah is limited entry. There are, like I said, some over-the-counter spots there. Nevada, I don't even put in. The odds are so far. Arizona, I do put in, even though the odds are far, you still have a slight chance of a randomness to it that you can draw. It's very like 0.001%, but I put in hoping that when I look at my strategy, that's like my once in a lifetime tag I want to get at some point is an Arizona elk tag. New Mexico is 100% random lottery. You have to buy the hunting license and apply. You don't get refunded that hunting license. So there's a barrier to entry there, but I do kind of like it that it's random. It's hard for planning, but it still gives you a chance to not deal with the point creep side of things. And for anyone that's doesn't understand like what point creep is, basically like states like Colorado, now there are units that up until this year you could hunt over the counter. So you go to Walmart and buy a tag, but the higher quality units from a standpoint of say size of bulls, and I'm speaking mostly on elk because that's where most of my familiarity is in, but those higher end units, you or I would never be able to draw some of those units because every year it would take one more point to be able to draw that. Like there was even a unit that when I started applying, it took like 4 points to draw. I currently have 9 points in Colorado and I still can't draw it because I'll never catch it.
It just stays in front of you.
It stays in front of me. Now, Colorado is making a change in 2027 where they're going to allot 50. I think I remember this correctly, but where they'll allot 50% of the tags to random and 50% to the highest point holders to try to, curb that. Now, for the guys that have been putting in for 20 plus years, that sucks because they spent a lot of money and now they're in a worse spot. But I know I ran through that very, very quickly, but in general, there are still opportunities. They're not as easy as driving to a Walmart and picking them up anymore. It takes some planning and some preparation with it. This is the first year that it looks like I'm not going to have a tag out there. But partially it's my fault because I could have had a Wyoming general tag. I decided to try a limited entry. Knew I had slim chances, but I really wanted to hunt this area. And I put in for it and didn't draw. And Montana, I probably would have had a 50-50 chance, but I'm buying a point knowing that next year I should have a 100% chance to be able to draw that. New Mexico, I went for some of the best units again. So there was things there where I didn't totally balance out my application strategy to make sure I got a tag. But yeah, there was also the side of it where I knew I already had a tag in Canada. I have a moose hunt at the end of September. Actually, the same place I'm going to hunt bears in Quebec. Quebec is not known for big moose. It's more of a family hunting camp trip. So the way it works there, and I'm still learning this, it's weird as hell, but Quebec, maybe it's just this outfitter, I don't know, but you can do it yourself on the hunt. Like you don't need a guide, but you need 2 tags per one moose. So you say me and you were to go on this hunt together. You're allowed a certain area to be able to hunt, like say 10 square miles. You're given a cabin. You bring your own generator to hook up and bring your own drinking water and stuff. You stay at that cabin, you hunt out of it. You can hunt in this particular area. But if me and you can both hunt, but if you just shoot a moose, I got to put my tag on it with you and then we're done. So it's really weird. I'm still learning it. And since, like I said, the people I'm bear hunting with, it's the same place, I'm going to talk to them and try to understand exactly how it works. Because I don't even know, I'm assuming the land is I don't know how Canada works with private and public land,
Yeah.
but I'm pretty sure you can't. I don't want to speak out of turn. If you can hunt public as a non.
What you're describing to me sounds like an outfitter deal or something. But
yeah,
they shouldn't be able to. I mean,
I don't know, man. Canada's
Yeah, I know.
They do some weird stuff.
Yeah.
But like I knew when I hunted
They were probably
Alberta
drunk when they made them laws or something.
when I hunted Alberta for deer, I knew I couldn't hunt like I couldn't hunt on public there unless I was with a resident. There's like some weird rules that are Canadian wise. So I don't know. Maybe this is the outfitter's way of like getting more money. I don't know, but we'll see.
Yeah. If someone like if some young guy's listening right now or old guy that if you're old, it's going to be tough to get caught up. But like, what would you suggest to someone that's young and wants to start putting in for things? Because like, I talked to a buddy that's in his 50s, and he's he is lucky in the manner of just he was into this whenever he was or younger than us when he was in his late teens, and he started got a lot of opportunities to hunt some really cool things just because of the time frame he lived in.
Yeah.
But now he was like, man, because he's hunted mountain goats a couple times. He's like, now, man, I don't even think I would put in for it. I would just save your money over the 20 years that you would put in tags and just go on an outfitted one, because I don't think you're going to get it. Where would you start if you were 19 years old again or 18 years old and could start putting in for points?
That's a great question. And what I would do is, honestly, I wouldn't change it much from the strategy I have now, but I look at things in like I always look at them in a short, a midterm, and a long term. Well, there's less opportunities in that short term, like say specifically for elk and kind of even mule deer too. So like I look at things in like a states that I can hunt more often rather than like the highest end trophy potential side of it. I put like, again, one state, Arizona's up there, is like my once in a lifetime. Maybe I'll chase a 400-inch bull someday sort of deal. But for me, I want to hunt elk as much as possible. So I'm looking at states that have the ability to draw, say, lesser quality of tags, but allow me to hunt more and go on a rotation with them. So like I'm putting in for Idaho, even though I said this, it can be difficult with getting into that tag system. But Idaho, Montana, Colorado, New Mexico, Wyoming fit into that circulation for me. Now, if I was brand new, never elk hunted before, what I would probably do is get a spike only tag in Utah. It's an over the counter tag. You can hunt some of the best units. There's some, I shouldn't say some of the best units, but some of the really good units in Utah. You can't shoot any of those big bulls, but you get the experience to be around elk and just get those reps in of being around them. So then when you do pull a good tag, then you can have that experience. I have heard it is tough to actually shoot a spike because you see a lot of branch antlered bulls or bigger ones, that it can be really difficult from that standpoint. Even though they're just, quote unquote a spike, it still can be difficult to be able to do. Now
find the right animal, right?
Now when that's and then when that's looking at elk, there are other opportunities, whether it's Western whitetails, a lot of that stuff you can get either over the counter or draw the tag every year, that you can still get that adventure side of it while you're building points for some of these other species. And to me, it really comes down to what your goals are. If you're looking at something as a bucket list item, go with an outfitter, save up money, go with an outfitter, go do it. If this is something you want to repeat over and over again, that's where I think, building those points, even going with an outfitter, you still need to build points in places, but the only way you're going to get good at it is with reps. Like I've been doing it for almost 10 years. I don't consider myself good at it. Yeah. I'm starting to have more opportunities, which is great, but it's a lifetime learning lesson. And to me, it's just as much about getting to see awesome places as it is about the actual hunting per se. And that's what's been super fun to me. But I think there's other opportunities like pronghorn, whitetails, sometimes mule deer mostly draw, but you can find some stuff that's easier to be able to pick up. Bears, like we were talking about spring bear, different opportunities like that. I think, but to start with anything, it's writing down what your goals are. Like, what do you want out of it? Do you want to go out and just get to experience the mountains? You like being in the mountains as much as possible? Then figure out a strategy so that you can hunt in the mountains as possible. But it is important to look at, like, say, the Eastman Tag Hub, the Go Hunts, the Hunting Fools, like those. What those are the platforms that put out information to be able to help you. Some of them will put in for you so you don't miss deadlines or whatever. You can pay extra to have them do that. But to learn the states, learn their draw strategies. But what I would personally do is not, you'll run yourself broke trying to apply in every state. So trying to find a, a 4 or 5 state cycle and focusing on that. And what the guy you talked about with Mountain Goat, that's kind of the way I came to with it, was like, man, to put in for this, if it's cheap to put in somewhere, I will. But for the most part, it adds up. And it's like, all of a sudden I've got thousands and thousands of dollars in points. And I don't know if I'm ever even going to draw this tag, where I could save up, and you're still going to end up paying more in the end to go to Alaska and pay for a mountain goat hunt or whatever. But that was, I actually ran into that with moose in Alaska when I went up there a few years ago. It's so hard to get in with this DIY transporters, and even DIY drop camp transporters are tough to get in with, and they're expensive. And the one I was with was reasonably priced, but what I learned was like kind of like a totem pole strategy, where your first year going there, you kind of get dropped off in one of the worst spots. And as you renew, you don't lose your spot. But as someone comes out of their spot, like say a better place, because someone gets first right of refusal every year, and then you can get bumped up into that next spot, and then bumped up next thing you know. But I was like, man, if I have to do this, because there was guys there that I was talking to, like, yeah, it took me 4 or 5 years to kill my first bull moose. And I'm like, I'm like, man, you got 25 grand into this when you could have saved that and went with it and an outfitter and got it. And because for me, moose hunting it was not nearly as fun as elk hunting. It kind of felt like deer hunting in the rut sometimes, where you're just like sitting there calling, hoping something comes in, but not sure if you're even, doing things right. And yeah, I think, though, like I said, trying to look at what places and what your goals are, what opportunities you can do the most hunting at. But like the number one piece of advice I would give, though, even if you wanted a DIY, shoot a 6x6 bull, it's like, that's cool. But you find those states that maybe to get that opportunity or have more frequency at that opportunity is going to take more points. But try hunting other states in the middle, so you learn how to elk hunt, so that you can actually capitalize on that opportunity when it happens. Because if you spent 10 years applying, you get this great tag, and you've never been elk hunting, that's gonna be tough.
Yeah, even if you're in a good area.
Because elk hunting is hard. Like this last year, so I had two hunts out west, 2 elk tags. My first year, I had 2 of them. One of them was the DIY trip that I was telling you about, public land, going through it. The other one was a premium private land ranch type hunt. I actually have a film coming out about that experience. It was the coolest thing ever to be able to go experience. But even there was still hard. Like, it wasn't, there were definitely elk everywhere, but to shoot a big bull was still not, it wasn't like, walking out of the vehicle and these bulls came running in. It was still hiking 10 miles a day and getting into it. So that's why that side of it, from making sure you're getting reps in.
Thought about going blacktail hunting yet?
Like Kodiak blacktail, or like up in Alaska, or like west, or like Oregon type
Oregon
blacktail
stuff is what I was thinking.
No, I have not. But if you look at those guys that do that, are like serious whitetail hunters in a way.
Yeah. They
They're
get their
exactly like that.
information from like the, whitetail, because obviously there's not like a whole bunch of blacktail experts really, but I mean there probably is, but they're not a bunch of data or information on it.
Mhm.
I got some buddies that live out in Oregon, and that's their thing is blacktail. They want me to come out real bad, and kind of been thinking about it. I
Oh,
want
that'd
to
be
shoot one. They're
cool.
beautiful animals. My buddy, the one I was talking about earlier, that the older gentleman, he used to go out to was it Kodiak Island maybe?
Mhm.
I don't feel like it was Kodiak Island, but one of those islands out there. Um, and kind of before it was cool to do that, I mean, back 20 years ago, but like he'd go out by himself and he would fill I guess you got two tags
Mhm.
for blacktails, and he would fill them both and come home and just have a great just experience, Um, that's something else that would be super cool.
That hunt, the Kodiak blacktail hunts, I had actually booked with a transporter before. So the way most of those hunts run is like you book with a boat and they'll take you and drop you off and then you go hunt. So it's not guided, but you can go
Mm,
back and sleep on the boat at night. I know buddies that have went and they camped on Kodiak Island, which they call it Kodiak Island for a reason. There's a
yep.
ton of brown bears there, and they're pretty large. But I ended up having to cancel that trip, and I never ended up getting to go back yet. That was 2 years ago.
Mm,
I ended up getting that opportunity to moose hunt up there the same year. I
both
couldn't
of 'em.
do both of them
Yeah,
in
I
a
get
year. But it was I'm really bummed because everyone I talked to said it's like an
awful.
absolute blast. It's hard to my buddies that the one guy, a buddy of mine, Kyle Hansen, he works for Outdoors International that helps broker some of those hunts. He was saying, he's like, man, the most fun hunt, and he's hunted grizzlies, hunted all these different animals. He's like, the most fun hunt is blacktail on Kodiak. He's like, but it's hard to get people to do it because you're shooting 80-inch antlered deer.
Right, right. Have you talked to like um Mike Minton?
Yeah, I know Mike Minton is. I don't know him personally, but I know who
Okay,
he
I didn't know
is.
if you've had him
Yeah.
on the show yet. I've been thinking about asking him to come on here, but um, what I guess since you've been out to Alaska on a moose hunt, like Monty Browning and Mike Mitten and all those guys, Mike goes out by himself and does.
He's a trad bow hunter, right?
Yeah, he wrote a book about it. It's called One with the Wilderness, but um,
Okay.
it's a really good book. I try to be a reader. I'm not a great reader, but he had me. I got a lot of books that they look good on the shelf back there, but
I
yeah,
do more audio-book listening. I
yeah,
have a
yeah,
lot of
yeah,
books.
yeah,
It
yeah.
takes me a long time to get through
Oh,
like a
me too, dude.
paperback.
My wife is like a speed reader, and I'm almost finished with a book. It's like 200 pages. I think she's read 6 books in the time that I read this one book. I'm like,
Yeah.
this is
Yeah.
embarrassing.
My
But
sister-in-law was talking about reading like hundreds and some books last year. I was like,
yeah, that's my wife.
what?
Yeah, she reads dozens a month.
I'm like, I read 2.5.
Yeah. Um, yeah, dude, I read like the smartest kid in the 5th grade. Uh, but that's here nor there. But anyway, dude, that's those guys that do they're fascinating to me. Like just to get
They're
dropped off there.
badasses, dude. They
Yeah,
are badasses.
get dropped off there by yourself and then kill a moose and then um yeah, and then Monty Browning, I had him on. He wrote a really good book that you might be interested in. Let me find it here. Here it is. It's called DIY Bow Hunting Alaskan Yukon Moose. He's just an old timer, uses an old longbow.
Wish I would have read that before I went there.
Yeah, I mean they've killed a bunch of them out there. Now I don't know, I don't know the logistics. I mean, it's probably I haven't read this one yet, but it pretty much walks you through from chapter 1's the basics all the way to I think booking stuff and the equipment you need and hunting tactics, and they're all trad bow hunters though. They all go out there and shoot them with longbows. But they're interesting. That stuff, that Alaska moose stuff is so interesting to me.
Yeah. It's been like the top of my bucket list for a long time. I mean, moose are just so big, and like those Yukon, Alaska moose are just huge. And when my buddy Ethan asked me to go along, he was able to get in with this transporter because he had hunted caribou with him, and they only take repeat clients. So that's how I got in with them. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is crazy. And we're both like, we want to go. The whole season was 2 weeks long. It was 14 days. I was like, if we can do it, like, let's do. It wasn't any more money. You get charged for the plane ride in, the plane ride out. And if they come get a moose, it's, more money. But so I was like, let's go in a day or two before season and come out the day after season. And that's what we did. I'll tell you what, man, 14 days in, I think the season actually might have been 10 or 11 days. And that's weird in there for 14, but that much time with absolutely zero cell service, weather that's raining like all the time, all that stuff. It took me about 2 or 3 days to get settled into it. And then I was golden. I felt like I was one with the wilderness at that point, but it's a cool experience.
And having you on talking to you about this makes me want to go back out there. I had that out of my system for a little bit there, Beau. Dang it.
Hey, you're the one that asked me to talk.
I know.
You see how I can't help but I'm so ecstatic about it. Like I get so pumped to talk about it and like getting to see the cool places and
it's wild. I just love looking at these pictures of this. Not like they go over, I can't find it, but like this is how to float hunt out there and like see those moose on the, and I don't know. I get a kick out. I haven't like I said, I haven't read this book, but I've like looked at the pictures in it, and it's just like,
of course you did.
Yeah, dude, there's lots of pictures. This is my kind of book,
Wow.
You know who Nate Bargatze is, right? The comedian.
Yeah,
he wrote a book that just came out, and he puts like 5 pages with no words in it just to give you like a break. He's like, yeah, like all the words are in books, and he's like, you just got to give a break to get back ahead. Just get 5 pages of no words. It's pretty funny.
They're just blank pages.
Yeah, they're just blank pages. It's like a joke he has that like a book should just have some blank pages so you get your feet back underneath you. Caught up, and he's like, but there's a picture of Mike Minton again with one of his moose he killed out there with a recurve. But
Mike's a cool, like I don't know, like I said, I don't know him, but I've learned a bunch about him, and just hearing his stories is really, really incredible. I think I got the bug from going to, or my grandfather, when he was it, I think it was right after he got out of the military, he went to Alaska, and he lied about saying he was a smoke jumper, and he went and did that and fought fires in the Alaska wilderness for months, like being dropped off, and he always would tell me about like if he could have moved to Alaska, that's where he would have been, and he just loved it so much, and getting to be there. So that's where, to me, it was like I felt a calling to go there. And it was funny when I went up there moose hunting. He's like, you're not driving up there? I said, no. And he's like, you gotta take the drive up the highway. And he's telling me now it's like that road is paved through there, but hearing the stories of them when it took them 2 weeks to drive there, sort of deal, in a broken down vehicle, station wagon type of deal, and just hearing those stories like of that type of adventure. They didn't have good gear, they didn't have good food, none of that stuff, and they just went and figured it out. Now I am very thankful we do have those things, because I can see how miserable it would be. But what is the guy's name? Oh, I can't believe I'm drawing a blank on it. One of the most famous writers from like the 1920s to 50s in the outdoor space. The 270 Winchester is like his rifle that he always talked about. I can't believe I'm drawing a blank on his name. I'll come back to remembering his name here, but he
like Aldo Leopold or
I'll look it up as I'm talking about it here.
I don't know who you're talking. I mean, I probably do know who you're talking about, but I can't think of who you're talking about.
Let me ask the old Chat GPT.
There you go.
Jack O'Connor. There
Oh
it is.
yeah. Okay.
Jack O'Connor. So I purposely took his book with me, and he talked about hunting some of the same places that I was hunting at. And as I was sitting there reading the pages about moose hunting, and he talked about, he's like in September when the aspen trees are turning, look like candles across the mountains because they're turning, yellow and gold, and the snow-capped mountains in the background. As I'm reading the pages and I look up and I'm seeing that,
Yeah,
it was just like the coolest thing to be able to see. But reading his stories where he's like smoking cigarettes and chasing sheep in blue jeans, and I was like, man, that guy's tough.
I know, man, and that generation just harder than we are. Like, I mean, I'd like to think, I guess, I could keep up with them, but it's probably, it's probably a lie. I'm probably lying to myself. But like Monty Browning, who wrote that book about Alaska, I talked to him about his longbow, and he's in his he's like 70 now, or something like that, and he's like, yeah, I shoot a 70-pound longbow, and he shoots. He like shoots like fish arrows, like the fiberglass arrows that you use for fishing out of it.
Like bow fishing
Yeah,
arrows?
like real heavy
Yeah.
arrows. And yeah, I'm like, gosh, dude, I don't know if you've ever pulled back a 70-pound longbow, but it's
more than a 70-pound compound. I know that.
yeah, like a lot more,
Yeah.
So I don't know. They're different. But it's really cool those guys, to listen to them tell stories and whatnot, because once they're gone, that generation is different. They just had things different. They didn't have the everything they learned was kind of firsthand, and um, like you said, the gear thing just made you almost tougher because they didn't have as much stuff as we do now, and I don't know. It's like kind of a romantic thing to me for some reason.
There was one counter argument that I've heard to this that I think has some weight to it. And
Mhm.
I wouldn't say that, like, I still believe that those guys are tough as hell, but there also were seemingly a lot more animals on the landscape and not as much pressure that was coming to it. So
Sure.
typically they could get it done quicker, but it still didn't, like Jack O'Connor talking about taking 2 weeks on horseback just to get to his hunting spot, like
Yeah.
in Alaska. You can't,
Well,
that's,
yeah, and I'm not necessarily talking about the type of hunters they are. It's just like
yeah.
the adventure they endured.
Oh yeah, there's not, like, you're not looking at these maps and knowing like how you don't have the Garmin inReach that you can hit the
Yeah,
SOS
dude.
button and get you out of there. Like when you left, if you have wife or anything at home, like she didn't know until you walked through that door again. Like
Yeah, I know. It's such a different thing. My grandma talks about that, about like my grandpa being gone and hunting,
yeah,
coon hunting, and like or whatever, and she's like, "Oh, whenever he's back, I guess he'll be back." But I mean, I guess you're just used to that. It wasn't probably wasn't that big of a worry to them. I guess if it would get out of hand, it would be a worry, but it
yeah.
is what it was back
Yeah,
then.
it wouldn't
It's
be
totally
as big of a
different.
shock as now. Like
Yeah,
even up
dude.
there when I was there, I could send an inReach message once a day of like,
Yeah.
hey, didn't see anything again today, but I'm doing well.
Yeah, I'm
Hope you're
alive
doing
still.
good, like that sort of deal. So you still could do that check-in process. And I am thankful for those safety pieces of technology. The thing that, and I talked about it with Cliff Gray on my podcast, and actually got a lot of slack on it. The reel went uh not viral, but
Yeah.
it did well, and there was a lot of
Viral
people.
for a hunting
Yeah, for a
podcast.
hunting. Yeah, exactly. And people like, oh, because we were talking about how Starlink, you can take them anywhere. I have the
Yeah.
mobile unit that I can take wherever. I can set it up in my truck and have internet at this point. And he's like, there's going to be that possibility, and probably easier than having to buy them basically everywhere in the next 5 or 10 years.
Yeah.
And not having that, and we were talking about like that kind of sucks in a way, because you can't, and it's like, oh yeah, the argument everyone was saying is like, well, just leave your phone at the truck. And it's like, you're not going to leave your phone at the truck. Like you use it for mapping. Yes, you could. I mean, I'm not disciplined enough to leave my phone at the truck, but all I'm saying is like the possibility to completely disconnect you need to be more intentional about it. It's more difficult to do so.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's different. That's all I'll say about it. There's definitely benefits from a safety standpoint and being able to touch base with your kids and whatever
Yeah.
else when
Yeah.
you're
Yeah.
gone. Like that's huge. Don't get me wrong. But there is something about being able to disconnect. When I went to Alaska there on that moose hunt, leading up to it, I was stressed because I had a lot of work that was going on, and it was like kind of a tough period of things, and I was just like trying to get everything done and run low on sleep. And I remember this. I don't know if I even talked about this before, but I was flying in, literally just like losing service 14 days. I'm flying in, I'm in the float plane, and I remembered that I forgot to transfer money from this one bank account to the other bank account that I just wrote the final check to pay for the plane. And I was like, man, I hope they wait to cash that until I get back, because I had the money in a different account and I needed to
Yeah.
transfer it over and I forgot. And then like, so it created this anxiety. I'm like, oh my gosh, what if that bounces? And ended up everything was fine. I had more than I thought I did in there, but I was like freaking out. And then it took me almost 2 days to like call. I was there. I just felt like anxious when I got dropped off. Obviously, I was excited, but anxious. And I kept like looking at my phone, and it's embarrassing to say that, but when you get in that scenario and you just have been busy working on life and emails and all this stuff
Yeah.
for a while, and then you go to complete disconnection, it takes a little bit, at least for me, to completely disconnect. And then once I did, man, I was like, I don't need any of that stuff ever again. Like
Yeah.
it felt good to be there and just focus on hunting, getting your water, making your food, getting some sleep, and that was kind of repeat.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you this. Me and Dan were on the show last week, and no, last week, and we were talking about technology and hunting, which we talk about a lot. Me and him do, but like I got a dumb phone now. Like it just has texting and calling, and that's it on it.
Really?
Yeah, the last month I've had it
It
like
looks like an iPhone.
well, it's an Android phone.
Okay.
Like whenever you open it, just has these is the only thing that's on it. There's the camera,
Whoa.
that's kind of a important thing for me, the camera for what I do,
Yeah.
But I've just been using my social media, like scheduling out posts on my computer. They go out, and then that's it. Like I don't have my YouTube analytics on my phone. Any of that. I have which I don't know where it's at, but I have a work phone for my, my job. Uh, and but that doesn't have social media on it or anything. That's just my
Mhm.
emails and everything. So it's been good. Like I said, I tried to start, like I was joking about reading, but I have been actually reading the last month, because I'm like, instead of scrolling on Instagram or Reels or any of that stuff, I just like, okay, I'll just read instead, and like it's been pretty good so far. Now
Damn,
we'll
that's
see. I got to figure out Onyx and Spartan Forage and all that. Still, I haven't. I think I think I'm just gonna put it on my work phone, and that's fine.
yeah. Yeah, that's fine.
There's nothing bad on that stuff. They're not whatever. That's fine. Um,
Yeah.
but I don't know. It's a little bit of a
I'm
like,
sure it's an adjustment.
yeah, I'm good now. Like whatever. But like, it's kind of, once you get free from it, it's like a big weight off your shoulders, kind of.
I bet, like not reading the YouTube comments constantly or
Yeah,
the
and like not, because there's like sometimes I would get caught up in the comments where it would bother me a bit more than it should have.
Mhm.
Whether I respond to them or not, it's still like I'm still a human being. And getting away from it to where I don't look at it, like I don't harp on it as much. I just don't, like I'll see it 2 days later or whatever, and it's like, okay, what. I don't know. It's been good for me.
I'm gonna get back over here and whittle some sticks. So you
Yeah.
comment.
Yeah. So
Uh,
it's been interesting. It took a while to get used to the phone. Just I would like pick it up and be like, okay, you know.
yeah.
Then the
What do I?
curiosity eventually leaves you.
Yeah, like you constantly like swipe up to like open, like look for
Yeah,
notifications.
and
Is
then
like,
you open up to your 70 apps you have on your phone, that half of them don't mean anything at all to you. But and
yeah.
I don't know, this is all like scientific Huberman stuff, but like a lot of people they say like the colors that come off to your phone gives you like this, it's not good for your mental state, and especially after a certain time at night and with sleep and whatnot.
Well, like I've went down this rabbit hole of like there's so many places on your phone to receive messages or communications.
Hmm.
And our roles are a little bit differently than most people, but I think most
Sure.
people have this too. But
Oh yeah.
I've got 3 Instagram accounts, 3 Facebook things. They all have messages that can come in, YouTube, TikTok, email, 3 different emails, like all these places that text messages, all that stuff can come in. And there's so many messages coming in where, I mean, you probably have noticed it takes me a while to respond to messages, and it's not intentional to like be disrespectful to anybody, but I put my phone on do not disturb a lot, and then I like
Yeah.
batch respond to things because I was just constantly getting notifications,
Me
smartwatch
too.
coming through, seeing it. It's just like I have people be like, man, like you take forever to get back. And it's like, I'm not trying to be that way, but for my own mental state, like I need to, whether it's even work or family or just like being present, I need to be able to disconnect from it. Like
Well,
the times of when we had, wired phones, that we'd have. I remember at my parents' house, we'd have the phone where you actually ring the dial with your finger. And it was like people call and leave a message. It was no big deal to call them back days later or even a week later, just like
yeah.
that's what it was. Now you're expected to respond right away. Like I've had people that are like listeners of the podcast and stuff that would like comment on Facebook posts that I didn't see. It wasn't intentional that I didn't respond to it. And then they comment back like a day later, like, oh, can't respond to your fans. Like this is or whatever. It's like, man, I'm really not trying. I'm not trying to be
Mhm.
an ass. Like that's not intentional at all. It's just, there's just
Yeah.
a lot of
No, I
communication
had
going.
to, man. I just like, well, what happened was my old phone, I dropped it and it broke. Like the camera busted on it. So I had to get a new one. And I was like, because I started a job back up. My old company hired me back. They shot me an offer I couldn't refuse, and kind of gave me a lot of freedom and all this and that. So like all this stuff that I'm still doing, and then you added that onto it. And I'm just like, dude, I can't do this anymore. Like I have to do something. And I'm like, social media is, I mean, it's not that important. Like it is for what we do, but like
Hmm.
I can just do it here and like spend a couple hours and get it done. And then like the comments can wait. Like they can wait till tomorrow whenever I jump on here and look at them for a few minutes.
Yeah.
Um, it's just not needed. And then like, cause I was finding myself at night, cause I'd be working throughout the day, doing things for the podcast, whatever. And then at night, then I would be like flipping through social media, answering Facebook messages, Instagram messages, looking at comments, like which you don't, that's mostly a waste of time. But uh, and like not to, I don't want to be disrespectful to people that are on here, but like it's usually not. There's not like a lot of like not a lot of like. It's just people commenting. It's nothing that you actually need to respond to. And yeah, I just like instead of sitting there listening to Huck tell me a story, I would be like, yeah, bud, I'm like, this is not good. It's not the example I wanted to show to him. So now I just have this and it's not an option anymore. So
That's really cool. I give you a lot of respect
we'll
for doing
see.
that.
Put 'em up.
And that's and yeah, and but also like the comment thing, like I know what you meant. You didn't mean
Yeah,
that.
no,
It's like
no, no.
it's not
Yeah.
important for people to comment because the thing what you mentioned about like sometimes things getting to you. Like I take pride in a lot of times of not like I don't let things bother me. I laugh when someone's just
Hmm.
running me down then for some reason there'll be days that like something hits and I think about it for hours. And I'm like, why does this bother me? I'm like thinking, I'm like, just cool down and just ignore it. Like it's not and then there could be 30 positive things and then one negative, and you always dwell where it's just human nature to dwell on those negative things. It doesn't matter if it's social media or just being in person. And then I remember when I started going to events a lot, and I go there and talk to a lot of people that say we're watching like your show here or listen to the podcast or whatever, and then they come in person and it's like the best thing ever. Like I love having conversations with people. It's just like the messaging thing is just so hard to keep up with.
Yeah, and it's hard to answer some question. I mean, just hard to answer questions sometimes on Messenger or whatever on social media. I mean, to thoroughly answer things is tough. Gives me some ideas sometimes to talk about on here, but gosh, there's something else that popped in my head about this. Oh, I know what it was. We were just talking about technology, and like you were talking about Starlink and whatnot. Like, have you gotten the feeling over out east where you guys are whitetail hunting, like cell cameras and trail cameras, and like what's the status of that out there right now? Like, is there? Me and Dan were talking last week about just the sheer amount of them being in the woods, and like we got a lot of comments in the comment section about people just like almost to the point where it's sickening. There's so many out there where you walk around and like go on a scouting trip and you see 6 or 8 of them every time you go. Do you guys get that out there? Is the terrain kind of without cell service and all that?
More places are getting cell service, man, and like and the cameras are getting better with it. There'll be places I don't have cell service on my phone that I can get cell cameras to work, whether it's me or somebody else. And it was funny because when people first started complaining about it, I felt like we were like a couple years behind it.
Yeah.
And it was just like last year I really started seeing an increase in that. And I don't know, I don't really let it bother me because what I've learned is a lot of times with cell cameras specifically, I'd almost rather see a cell camera in there than a regular SD card camera, because SD card cameras, when people got to come check it and then find the hot sign along the way. Cell cameras, especially in these areas that deer aren't really necessarily patternable per se, where they're there like multiple days in a row. Someone might get a picture of a big buck on their camera. They come in the next day to hunt it. They don't see any deer. And then they leave and they're out of the woods for the next 14 days until a buck comes on their camera again. That's not everybody, but I think there's a lot of that goes on. There was an area that I hunted last year that all of a sudden had a bunch of cameras in it that never did. And I've hunted the area for a while. I hunted it for over a week straight during the rut. I never saw another person. So it was like, that's the time when people would be off work and doing everything. And it wasn't, I felt like it was a false sense of pressure in a way. And I'm speaking from my areas. I'm not speaking for everywhere, but that's kind of how I've tried to frame it in my mind and look at it.
Yeah. It's pretty crazy. Like one area I hunt out here, it traditionally had no service. Like you couldn't, like phones, nothing worked out there. And they put a tower up last summer. They put the tower up and you get, a couple bars of 4G. It's still not great out there. But dude, it's like a switch came on. And I mean, this one particular hub system that I hunt this year, I went down, I had a regular SD card camera in there, but I went down there and checked it right before season. And I kind of looked over my left and someone had a Tacticam cell camera in the tree to the left of mine. And I'm like, dang, that's kind of weird.
Right next to yours?
Yeah, in the same tree over. And I actually, long story, but I actually ended up meeting the guy and he didn't know it was there. He didn't see it. Whatever. He was super nice and we actually became buddies and hunted together in there. But I walked down the hub out to the mouth of it and there was another camera there. I'm like, golly, man, And then I walked back up, went up top to come out, and there was a little one of those little bitty spy points that was like, waist level. As soon as I got up top, I'm like looking at it, I'm like, geez, guys.
Yeah.
And that was the first, because I was insulated from it out there because unless you're up top in certain areas, it would work. But like you just did, I mean, it was a waste of time to put one out there for until last year when they put a tower up in that area. And like, wow,
Yeah.
maybe this is too much, I don't know.
Yeah, there are still places that don't have service. There's still quite a few of them, but there's more places now that do have service than it used to be. That's how I'll put it. And like I said, the camera technology is getting better.
Yeah.
Like I'm sure there's other brands, but the Tacticams that I've been using, they search for 3 different signals: U.S. Cellular, Verizon, and AT&T, and pulls whatever's the best service. Like I said, I can put them in places where my phone doesn't get it because one of those other 2 providers picks up um, service. And so yeah, that's definitely changed the landscape of that. I just, like I said, I think in a lot of situations that it doesn't really, I don't think it's adding as much pressures as you think it's
Yeah. No,
perceived pressure.
it's just the fact that you're getting your picture taken and just
Yeah,
that's annoying,
I know.
Not that it
I'm
matters
getting
really, but it's just something. It's like, gosh dang, dude, like
yeah. Can I not just take a piss in the woods and not have to worry
or just
about it?
be
Like,
or just be alone out there, That's where I was at with it. I'm just like, I just don't. Um, I mean, it doesn't matter in the end, but it's just still weird. It's just weird to me.
I turkey hunted a spot here a week ago, and it's not a spot I traditionally deer hunt, but there's always turkeys in there, so I was in there, and dude, I saw like 7 cell cams and like tree stands hung everywhere. I mean, there was some good sign. Don't get me wrong. I saw the sign first. I was like, man, maybe I should start hanging out back here. I got in there. I was like,
Yeah.
no, nope. It's like it's one thing. Okay, cameras. That's one thing. Tree stands. That's one thing. You start compounding multiple
Yeah,
things that
yeah,
are. I'm like, nope. I don't want anything to do with it when it starts adding up like that. Um,
yeah.
it now like we see it like you're not supposed to leave tree stands up, but people do
Sure.
more often than they take them down, especially when it comes to ladder stands or heavy hang on stands. I always just look at the straps. If they're growing into the tree, I was like, all
Yeah,
right,
nobody's been here.
nobody's coming back here.
Yeah. Well, and that's how trail cameras are, dude. They're cheap enough now. People are just leaving them. Like
Yeah.
half of the ones you see are ain't being used for, like over a year, and it's just I don't know. It's just a bunch of kind of like garbage laying around now.
Well, I don't know. I was up in New York last year, and I just went up after I'd filmed my PA tag. I was like, "Oh, I'm just gonna go try a place I've never been to before." Hiked up in there, and I get up. I started finding good sign. I was like, I'm gonna set up here, and I had a camera guy with me, and he's like, "What's that over there?" I look. I said, "Oh, there's a camera and a climber there." I was like, "Dang it!" I said, "I didn't leave," and he's like, "It looks old," and I was like, "I was gonna leave a camera up, like it's long." And I walk over, and it was like that climber had been there for 5 years, and that camera was
Yeah.
just rough. And I was like, all right, no one's actually here.
Yeah, yeah,
But
yeah. Yeah, it definitely can give you this like false sense of this place is ruined, um,
yeah,
when it's really not. Um,
yeah, that is totally true, man.
yeah,
It's interesting. Yeah, we'll see what happens here in the future if it, what happens with regulations surrounding that kind of stuff or not. I really don't know.
I don't know either. It's a super interesting thing to think about. Like, you feel like there has to be a line drawn eventually because
Yeah.
things probably aren't going to get more expensive. I mean, I've even heard rumblings of eventually they think probably how the market will go with cell cameras is you pay for the subscription, you get the camera free. I
Hmm.
mean, they're almost there anyways. Like you can buy a cell camera for like $30 at Walmart, um, on their clearance stuff. So, I don't know. It's
Yeah, because
just
that's where they make most of the monies off the plans.
yeah,
Is subscription based.
yeah. Their margins aren't real great on the cameras themselves, I don't think. So, um, that's a weird thing because they are. I mean, I like cameras. I have this love hate relationship with them, and I go back and forth on the cell camera thing. Like it's kind of a double edged sword, and I don't know. figured I'd ask you about that, because Johnny was giving you a hard time about how many show
Oh
cams.
yeah, him and I joke. We go down each other all the time, and it's all in fun. Like
Oh yeah, he was
we
just joking, but
yeah, we have good fun with it. And I don't know, like I love cameras from the standpoint, like I'm just like a data freak with things, and I love analyzing it. And I think like, yeah, I don't know, man. I could go if they decided that they weren't there tomorrow. I'm still gonna hunt, still gonna do the same things. It's just I like looking at photos, I like looking at videos, I like looking at that data. It's That's just kind of
yeah,
how it is for me. I mean, it's not gonna change things if they go away. It probably, I will say, like without trail cameras, I would argue that most people are gonna shoot smaller deer because you don't know what's there per se. Uh, Not saying there's anything wrong with that either, but that's
yeah, yeah. Eventually what will happen. People will abuse it enough to where they'll have to do something for it, and
mhm.
the rules will change. That's
Yep.
how it always goes. Humans, we're
Yeah,
human.
we can't just have
We
a good
screw everything up.
thing and in moderation, you know.
I mean, that's what they did. Was it Arizona that outlawed them on public land? Was it Arizona or you?
Yeah,
No,
Utah
Utah.
did,
Utah.
but
Yeah,
I don't know if Arizona might have too, because everyone was putting everything on the water holes. There'd
yeah,
be like 20 cameras on a water hole, and
yeah.
people were coming to check their cameras while someone was hunting, and it just got into a
Oh, that's what'll happen here. Is someone will find a hot mock scrape or a hot hub scrape or a hot white oak, and there'll end up being 20 cameras over them, and the DNR will have to do something because there's too many.
oh, I couldn't imagine putting a camera right next to somebody else's. I did not on next. I put one in front of someone's tree stand by accident when because I was coming out of the woods at dark with my headlamp, and it was a
Yeah,
spot I used to run a camera. I was like, I haven't ran a camera here in a few years. I just had an SD card camera in my pack. I climbed up one stick, hung the camera, and I didn't go back for it for till the end of the season. And I'd walk past it, but always in the dark, going to where I hunted. And I pulled it, and one I noticed, I started complaining. I said, this son of a bee just, hung this stand here. I say, probably checked my card, saw a big buck on there and hung the stand. I'm making up a scenario in my head. I pull the card, and I'm like, he was on there like the next day looking at it like he's mad, but I'm like, oh, I said, I bet he had the stand here already.
and you
And
didn't post
I
it.
just put that camera right over it. And I felt bad. I was like,
Yeah,
man, I didn't, but it really wasn't intentional. So like, I can see how something can be non-intentional of setting up next to someone else's. But
yeah, yeah. I share your sentiment. I don't like to be. I don't even like to hunt next to when people have a camera somewhere. Kind of.
yeah, I have changed my thoughts on that a little
Me
bit
too.
more,
I
just
don't like it.
because,
I still do it.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
that's exactly right. It's like, all right, if it's someone like me that has a bunch of cameras out, I know there's places I don't even hunt all year that I'm just running cameras to pull the data at the end of the year and see if it's a spot worth hunting.
yeah,
And, I
yeah,
don't know. That's I get it, man. It's a weird, I don't have a strong stance one way or another. I'm not sitting here screaming from the rooftops that everyone needs to have 45 cell cameras that are out in the woods or whatever, but I'm not advocating for a ban on things either. So like I'm in this boat, like, all right, whatever happens, I'm gonna roll with it. I'm
yeah,
still gonna hunt, and that's just the way it's gonna be.
yeah. I definitely think I understand people's argument that they get frustrated with them all. I get that for sure.
I do too.
Hmm.
I've when I've done things about like trail camera strategy, like content on it, I've had people tell me they see my cameras in the woods, they're gonna shoot them with a 22, and they're gonna
Yeah,
whatever. And I get the frustration of it, but it's yeah, I don't know.
yeah. They're a really good tool for deer hunters. That's for
Mm.
sure. Anyway, Beau, you've been on here for almost an hour and a half. I don't want to keep you any longer. So appreciate you hopping on. It's good talking to you, catching up.
Yeah, man. It was it's always a good time chatting with you,
Yeah.
and appreciate it.
I haven't been to John. I didn't go to Johnny's cabin last year. He invited me a couple times when he went out there, and I told him, I said, keep inviting me. I said, I'm just real busy right now with kids and stuff, so don't stop inviting me. I'll say yes again, or make it up.
Yeah.
So hopefully we get to
Get to
share
spend
camp
some time
together.
in camp again. Yeah, that would be fun, man. I enjoyed it the last time we got to.
Yeah, for sure. I linked your YouTube channel and the East Meets West podcast down below. Is there any? I didn't put your social medias on there. I probably should have. I'll put that out.
That's fine. Just search if anybody wants to check it out. Just look for my name or East Meets West, and you'll find me.
Yep.
I want to say I do have something I'm really proud of coming out here June 12th. It's right before Father's Day. It's a film that's coming out on my YouTube channel, so it should be it's a really special film, documentary style that I had done. It's about my dad, and it's a pretty cool thing. So I'm excited about it. It's going to come out Thursday before Father's Day.
That's coming up quick. I'm excited to see it, man. That'd be cool.
Yeah, man.
All right.
Well, I appreciate you having me on, brother.
Yeah, thanks everybody for listening tonight, and we'll see you later.
See ya.